Dice Heist is a small dice rolling and set collection game for 2 to 5 players. Set in the world of international art heists, players compete to steal the most loot from 4 famous museums. To set up the game, the 4 museum cards are placed in a row on the table. The exhibit cards are shuffled together and placed face down nearby. Each player receives 1 black thief die, and a pool of white sidekick dice is placed within reach of all players. Each player then begins their turn by revealing the top card on the exhibit deck, either an artifact, a painting or a gem, and placing it under the matching museum. The player then has a choice of 2 actions. They can either take a white sidekick die and add it to their own pool, or they can attempt a heist at one of the 4 museums. You attempt a heist by first nominating which museum you want to burgle. Each museum has a security level specified by a dice face on the card. You then roll as many dice from your pool as you want to commit to the heist. If one of the dice rolled is equal to or greater than the museum's security level, the heist is successful and you get all the exhibits currently in that museum's column. You don't add the dice together. If the heist is successful, any sidekick dice you used are returned to the common pool. If the heist is unsuccessful, you keep the sidekick dice to use in a later turn. The turn then passes to the next player. This is repeated until all the exhibit cards have been claimed, at which point players add up their scores. Each artifact card is worth either 1 or 2 points, depending on the number of vase symbols. The value of gem cards increases depending on the number obtained in each colour set. For the paintings, the player with the highest total dollar value receives 8 points. The player with the lowest dollar value loses 4 points. And the player with the most points wins the game. Alright folks, we've just had a bit of a playthrough of Dice Heist, and joining me today are guest nerds Dogbox and Sarah, and we're just going to have a quick chat about what we think of the game. So, to start with, generally speaking, was it a reasonable game?
It's nice for a little card game, short 10-20 minute.
Yeah, Sarah?
Really straightforward, you can learn the rules quickly, easy to share with people who aren't necessarily familiar with lots of games, so I think it's good on that front, definitely.
So, you'd consider it to be a gateway game?
Easily.
Good to bring people in who don't normally play into gaming?
It's a marijuana game.
A marijuana game?
Gateway
drug.
Okay. What about theme? Does the whole art heist theme stack up with the way it's played?
I think it does. It's interesting. It gives you some information, well, not information, but it suits. The whole thing sort of suits. But I could see it could be done quite easily with different things from different museums or body parts if you're surgeons. All sorts of ways you could look at it. But I found it quite simple, basic collectible sort of thing.
Yeah.
For me, I think the artwork on the cards themselves is a little bit disappointing.
So you don't
It's
agree?
just not fun. I think the artwork's not fun. I think
You
the
don't
concept.
think it's fun, like the Mona Lisa winking at you.
I think that's. Yeah.
It
doesn't work for me.
It's very trying, but it's not. Doesn't quite kick you. It doesn't quite grab you.
Right.
And some of the plates and things could have been much funnier. I did like how one of the artworks was dogs playing cards.
I did like that, yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen Big Billy Bass in there really for artworks.
Okay. So family friendly?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And finally, we'll just wrap this up anyway. How many manis out of 5 would you give this game?
For a very quick game, I would give it 2.5 manis.
2.5?
I would give it 3.5.
I think I'd probably go 3.5 as well, simply because it achieves what it wants to be. It's a small box game you can chuck in your bag, take anywhere, and play in a few minutes.
My issue also is that there is one small thing with the mechanic where, with the henchman, if you succeed, you lose your henchman, which is kind of counterintuitive, and that's a bit weird, but I think it works. But it is something that's a bit odd.
I think the logic behind that is if you succeed, you split up your loot with the henchman and go your separate ways. Whereas if you don't succeed, you continue on.
I would have liked to have seen some sort of interrupt mechanic where you can do something when it's not your turn. But that's my way. I always look at a game and I try and make it more complex. So this is quite good for a simple game. But I felt, oh, look, there's all the people doing their things. I can't do anything until it's my turn.
So is there any strategy to this game, do you think?
Oh, definitely. When you're watching things come out and you're analysing which ones will actually give me the most points because of the cards I currently have, you will think, should I use my henchman? Should I roll now? do
Will
you
I
go,
take?
oh,
Is it
God, I
worth
need
taking
that
the
thing.
chance?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there is
there's
a little bit of
definitely
weighing it
strategy.
up, that getting a henchman or having a...
And what about the
heist.
actual sets you decide to collect?
And looking at what everyone else has, trying to make sure, oh, Dogbox has 2 green gems. Do I want him to get this third one? Is there any point in me wasting this roll on getting that green one so that
I
Dogbox
actually
doesn't get
think
it?
the game would be improved if we were hiding a lot of the loot that we were got.
So
At the moment they just say hide artifacts. I see no point to hiding the
No,
artifacts in
that
any way,
didn't seem
shape
to
or
mean
form.
anything to
but
me.
if you were hiding the loot works, 20, 40, 60 million, so you couldn't see what other people had. So there was that element of, can I remember what other people did get? That would make it more interesting. But at the moment, with almost everything out available and in front of you, you do have to do a lot of counting and watching what everyone else is doing. Having all of that hidden, I think, would add another element of
And I do prefer
playability.
that in a game where you have to remember. Otherwise, I think you're cheating.
Okay. So, recommend?
Recommend for art thieves everywhere. It's a steal.
Sarah?
I would play it again.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would recommend it.
Yep, and I would recommend it as well. It's a nice, simple game. I think it achieves what it sets out to achieve, which is being a simple game. So not a bad game. Dice Heist. Pick it up at your local game store if you can find it. It's been out for a while. And we'll be back with another game review sometime soon. Bye, guys.